30 different attendants and this
36.
call from 36, even better, from all over the world. I mean, that's awesome. And, we're really happy to have everybody here in attendance and to kind of kick off this discussion. So I'm Jeremy Guzman. I'm the head of tech here at Ben. Eric, Antonio, would you like to introduce yourselves real quick for those who don't know you?
Yeah, I'm Antonio. I'm the director of operations at Ben. I oversee and work with chapters all around the globe on a daily basis. So, John.
And my name is Eric. I'm the president of Ben. I kind of oversee everything as well, helping bring on new clubs, bringing on new partnerships, overseeing initiatives. Mostly everything we do at Ben is student run, like the Uniswap delegate, the crypto fund, the educational system with the videos and all the lessons and tutorials and translations that we have. So, this is one way of getting involved, but we'll take some time at the end to also share some other ways that some of you guys want to get involved, whether it's with content creation or trading or coding. There's lots of different ways to be involved.
Yeah, and we have a whole bunch of initiatives that we're kicking off this weekend. Actually, this is just one of them. So later on the tail end of this conversation, we'll introduce a lot of our initiatives for those who are interested. So to begin, welcome everybody. This is our Uniswap governance call. If this is the first time for some, this will be a really exciting conversation. So what we have on the agenda today, well, to give you a brief background on how we do these Uniswap calls, we host them on a bi-monthly basis or a monthly basis, depending on the developments that we see in the space. And we just go over anything that pertains to Uniswap. Our goal here is to engage and involve our members, especially within the Uniswap committee, to kind of investigate and examine what's going on in the Uniswap ecosystem. And we do that by our Ben Meta Delegate. And our Ben Meta Delegate pretty much is for those who aren't familiar with the Uniswap governance process. We kind of come together and we look at different proposals, we examine different discussions that are on the Uniswap forum, and we're going to get all into this later in the call. And we just discuss amongst ourselves. And if we come to a consensus of, hey, we want to vote on this particular proposal, then we all agree, and then the Ben Meta Delegate will vote on behalf of our members, right? For those who aren't delegates already. And we think it's a great experience and a great opportunity, especially for those who can't accumulate enough uni. This is a fantastic alternative because now it allows you to participate in the governance process without having to really have too much at stake. And it's great. It's great. So some topics for discussion. We're going to refresh on the Ben Meta Delegate and the governance process, as I just spoke on. We're going to review the Uniswap v3 press release that it's been about, a month or so since it's released. So there's a lot to talk about. We're going to explore any pending or ongoing proposals and examine their viability. That's pretty deep. So, we'll introduce the forum first, and then we'll dive into it as everybody gets more familiar with it. And then lastly, we're going to open the discussion in preparation for the end of the month call, right? So with that being said, I just want to review the Ben governance process, or the Meta Delegate. So first and foremost, we want to start with the Ben community, right? Everything starts with our members, and we want everybody to discuss amongst themselves any proposal that they see on the Uniswap forum that may intrigue them or pique their interest. They'll bring it up to the community, then they'll pass it on to the Ben tech committee, who will review a said proposal. We'll go about it, and then if we think that it's viable, it's worth passing, then it'll go to a community vote. If the community votes on it, then the Meta Delegate will kick in, and the Meta Delegate will vote on behalf of our members, right? But everything else, it falls on the baseline of our Ben community, and we were really proud to say that. And then lastly, once it passes with the Ben Meta Delegate, it goes on to the Uniswap, and we start examining from there. So I'll leave that. I'll pause for a minute if anybody has any questions. Eric, Antonio, if you want to add anything before we continue.
Yeah, we wanted to say that, you know, it's been a very interesting experiment thus far, because even from the last meeting, things have changed a lot, based off of feedback, based off of like what we've seen students are interested in, and what's a really helpful way to contribute to the Uniswap committee. So now there's a lot more of a focus on debating and on you know, straw man voting, like just do straw polling and discussing, because we have to educate a lot. A lot of the students that join in don't fully know all the nuances, don't feel comfortable, and don't feel ready to vote. So we're spending a lot more time educating now, and doing this as more of like, here's our thoughts and kind of getting your thoughts on it. And it's less about creating proposals and feeling the pressure to vote, but more about contributing to the discussion. So we can go through the governance forums and add to the discussions, start posting in there. Yeah, it's a lot more about debating. So for those of you that were part of debate club, or like debate nerds like I am, like you know, you'll very much like this, and you know, it's not too far removed from things that you might be used to. It's also a really good way to get involved in the space, especially if you're not a coder or not like a developer. Getting involved in governance and voting and debating and discussing, thinking about the economics behind these, you know, the legal side behind these. There's a lot of different discussions that we can have.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of philosophical and economic principles behind a lot of these proposals, and it's interesting to see some of the perspectives that are given by those who partake in the discussion forums. And again, we're going to get into that in a few moments. So now that we went over the Ben governance and the Ben meta delegate, just a quick recap on what is Uniswap for those who aren't familiar. So frankly speaking, Uniswap is one of the largest decentralized exchanges in DeFi, if not the largest. And they're competing directly in terms of trade volume with a lot of centralized exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, Bitfinex, Bittrex, whatever centralized exchange you use. A lot of the trade volume that Uniswap is accumulating nowadays on a 24-hour basis is competing almost in parallel with those centralized exchanges. So it's designed as a tool to facilitate trade without the need of a middleman. So that's the kind of interesting part of decentralized finance, right? Is it eliminates any intermediary or any centralized entity, and it's just you and the trade, or you and the execution of some sort of exchange, right? Or the swap, right? So that's really what was ingenious of Uniswap when it first came out, right? It eliminated the need of like order books or anything like that. So it's pretty interesting. And then the platform enables near instant token listings without listing fees, right? Binance is obviously the largest centralized exchange in crypto, arguably it compares a lot to traditional finance. But they charge a significant amount of fees when listing your tokens. Uniswap eliminated that altogether. You could just post your token with a pair, whether it's with ETH or US dollar coin or whatever the case may be, and you have a money market, and you let the market decide or dictate the price, right? And then lastly, it solves the liquidity problem seen on centralized exchanges. And that alludes to my previous point on order books, right? Whenever you execute a trade or you submit a limit order or anything within those guidelines, you're waiting for someone else on the other end to take your purchase, right, or to take your order. And so with that being said, it may take a good amount of time before anybody really purchases that. And if a particular asset has a lot of upward momentum, you may miss out, right? So Uniswap kind of eliminates that and mitigates any need for order books. So that's interesting part. So again, I'll take a quick pause if anybody wants to chime in. Anybody here who has used Uniswap or has any feedback on their experience, please feel free to speak up. You know, this is an open forum, so go ahead and interject whenever you like.
Jeremy, we have a question from Caleb about the agenda. Are we going to be spending the time talking about Uniswap V3, or are there current governance proposals that we will be discussing in straw polling?
Great question. Yeah, so I actually have the Uniswap V3 white paper opened up. If for those who have or haven't read it, we could briefly go over it. I was gonna kind of just leave it up to the call to determine how we gauge it. I really want it to be more interactive and more engaging, right? So we could look into the white paper. I also have the press release, which is more of a non-technical approach to what's to be included in the Uniswap V3. And then we could also pull up the forum. So for those who aren't familiar with how the forum looks, we could kind of investigate a bit more and get familiar with the interface. It's all up to this call. I really want to stimulate more engagement with those here.
Cool. We also have Ken joining us today. Ken is a Ben alum and he's from the Uniswap team. So Ken, I don't know if you wanted to say a few words or kind of maybe do some of the thoughts on like the V3 or the current governance proposals that could lead the discussion.
Hey, thanks for having me. I guess I'll introduce myself a little bit. I'm technically not Uniswap team. I'm an independent team. No, it's all good.
This is the future of decentralized work, right? It's like you can contribute to many different projects.
Exactly. And so yeah, I think what's really cool here is that, you know, with Uniswap, you have Uniswap Labs, which is the core team that builds the product, and then you have everything else around Uniswap, which is the, you know, obviously governance. It's really anything that's not core product, right? So Sybil, tokenless, education, everything around that. I like to look at it as like a, I don't know, like space cosmos. You know, you've got so many different stars, and Uniswap is just one, or the product is just one part of it, but everything else technically can be controlled by community governance, which is why this is really cool. The grants program was spun out of governance, right? We got our funding from community treasury. So now it's really just being able to provide grants out and have more people participate and really see the potential of like what can be done with community treasury, with decentralized governance. So this is really fun for me to sort of sit in on and join. And yes, Ben alum, this is super dope. It's like it's all full circle, right? Because I also was part of the Ethereum Foundation committee that provided Hayden the first grant for Uniswap, which is super dope, and now helping, you know, kick this grants program off. But yeah, I'll stop there. Thanks for having me.
No, we're really happy to have you. Thank you for attending. Matter of fact, I'll kind of pick on you a bit now that you kind of gave your introduction. What are your thoughts as an introductory discussion, I guess, what are your thoughts on V3? What are you anticipating as it begins to roll out, as we approach May? I think it's launching, if I'm not mistaken. And you know, what are some of the implications that you see that could benefit or potentially hinder the space? You could answer either way you feel comfortable. Cool.
Yeah, so this is, I'm super stoked for V3. I think it enables a lot of different strategies for liquidity provisions. And I think, you know, when people think about, I think the most common take that I see on Twitter is that V3 is just, you know, just on-chain order books, which in a way it sort of is, but at the same time, it's really not, right? It's so much more than that. You're able to sort of kick off liquidity with only one side of the pool, which I think is a really, you know, when we think about what it takes to kickstart projects, you know, feels like, and you know, being able to essentially raise funds directly on Uniswap, I think is going to be very cool, right? And I think this leads to a lot of potential for what V3 can do, right? If you think about liquidity, concentrated liquidity, and only on one side of it, you think about, like, you know, potentially if someone were to create an interface for anyone to, you know, launch their own token, you know, come up with a standard for, I guess, safe practices for, I guess, like a Uniswap token standard, is something that I heard John Palmer say. And I think, you know, if someone were to create something like that, I think that would be really dope. And then also thinking about, you know, what it means to be, to LP, like, period, right? What sort of strategies are you going to take? Is this now passive, where I just kind of dump money here? Or am I just going to sit on the outskirts and look for this outsized gain of like 4,000x? And that may be it. That's an amazing strategy of just like slippage. I'm going to only snipe, max gains from slippage. Or the other side is, I'm going to create a bot and constantly rebalance where I'm providing concentrated liquidity. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see how all these things get built. And I think it's ultimately up to the community to sort of decide where they want to take this. I think most of the takes that I've seen on Twitter so far are naive. And I think there are some people, I mean, obviously you have the Gauntlet team who has pumped a lot of really good stuff out. But there's so much left uncovered, right? And so when I think about I guess what could go wrong, it's almost everything. I think a lot of people just haven't yet seen what can be done. And so if we're not prepared for what this can enable, I think we might not be prepared for what's coming. Yeah, and maybe that might be redundant with what I just said, but I'm super stoked to see what sort of activities we can get into. I'm also excited to see what grants can come out and really sort of help people sort of explain what all of this is, but also build out some of the core infrastructure for people to partake in this. Because I think ultimately Uniswap is important and DeFi is really important because it is empowering. It's giving access to DeFi to many people who just would not have access to this period. So I'm super stoked to see more people talk about this, to really sort of reframe the I guess the access and the ability for people to partake in this. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, and I think you really touched on a key point, right? If whoever dives into the white paper, I really recommend kind of reading this line by line. They really lay out 4 main improvements in their in the new iteration, right? They like Ken just alluded to or just mentioned, is a concentrated liquidity, right? So now you kind of, what they say is bounding, right? So there is this is to help capital efficiency, right? So what that means is it's to help liquidity in essence. They want to increase they want to increase liquidity, so there's an easy flow from asset to asset, right? And what's interesting is you could kind of create a parameter of a lower price, I guess, quartile or whatever you want to call it, a price range, right? A minimum and a maximum in which this pair or this asset will trade between, right? And then obviously I think there's a certain time limit or something like that before it could trade freely. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. Maybe Christian or Ken, you could kind of speak on that a bit more. But also 3 more additions or iterations. They have flexible fees, right? Which I think I'll ping Christian on this one, Christian Lansang, because he was very involved with the fee switch, right? And that was a huge discussion in the Uniswap community as well. So that was interesting. And then of course, protocol governance fees, and then lastly, improved price oracles, which I personally am a huge fan of. I love the use of the oracles, especially when it comes to time-weighted average price. I think that's awesome. It's going to improve the overall performance of some assets and some pairs, and it also increases the trustlessness of the decentralized exchange. So by saying that, I kind of want to ping on Ken, Christian, or anybody else that wants to speak on the flexible fees. I think that'll be a great conversation to have, especially for those who are active LPs, liquidity providers. That's I think we could dive into that a bit more.
Yeah, I can talk for a little bit, Jeremy, if that's cool with you.
Absolutely, yeah, feel free.
I think one of the coolest upgrades of V3 is the capital efficiency that LPs now have. Instead of having to provide liquidity to the entire liquidity pair or the entire liquidity pool, they can choose like different portions of I guess the curve as to where they want to be providing liquidity, which means that they're now able to be more capital efficient. I think it's like 86 times more capital efficient or something ridiculous like that. And the reason why that's really important, or at least interesting to think about in relation to the fee switch, is that our last conversation, for people who weren't here, is that we were a little bit concerned about if we were to turn on the fee switch, then it might mean that LPs are going to leave. But if we now think that LPs have more capital efficiency, even if they are going to earn less income, the fact that they have now a heightened sense of, or a heightened ability to be more capital efficient, it means like this concern might be a little bit might be a little bit minimized, because we can simultaneously have this fee switch, and because Uniswap is so much more capital efficient than other decentralized exchanges like a Pancake Swap or whatever, like this fear of LPs leaving is now minimized. So I think that's like one of the greatest things about V3, and not to take the conversation too much towards the fee switch, but I think the fact that V2 is still running while V3 is still running means that we can use V2 as a testing ground. And we can talk about this later, but I think the argument for turning on a V switch in V2 becomes a lot more persuasive, because we can see and hypotest V2 when we turn on the fee switch to see what effect that might have on V3 if we wanted to turn on the fee switch in V3 in the future. So just wanted to float out the constant like fee switch that at least at Harvard, how we've been thinking about it, and how we want to at least like test the waters of turning on the fee switch in V2 to see what that might look like in turning on the fee switch in V3. Also for like people who weren't here at our meeting last month or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, the fee switch basically reduces the income that LPs get and who provide liquidity to different liquidity pools, and those basis points then go to uni token holders instead, and which is like very hotly contested for different reasons that we can talk about later. But that's just like the TLDR of the fee switch.
Sick. Thank you for that, Christian. Caleb actually brought up a great question. He's asking, are we going to talk about some beginner LP strategies? And what I'll do in just a brief moment, I'll pull up some pairs, and I think that will arise an interesting conversation on impermanent loss. And I think Christian can, Eric, anybody could speak on that as well, because I think that's an interesting conversation in itself, and the complexity of what impermanent loss is, and I guess the ambiguity of it, right? Because impermanent is an interesting choice of word, right? For such an activity. So Eric, or anybody else that wants to ping in, please feel free to carry on that conversation. Give me one quick second. I'll pull it up on the screen here so we could talk about some pairs, and they'll kind of tie in nicely with what Christian just spoke on.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting strategy, because that's something that people can get involved in a way that contributes to the ecosystem, but also returns money, right, to people. And so there are some people now that are making money through providing liquidity on Uniswap. And so it's definitely part of a strategy to think about, if I'm providing liquidity, now you first have to pick a pair. So like ETH or DAI or dub wrapped Bitcoin or whatever your favorite like DeFi coin is, and pair that against another token like ETH or USDC. So there's a couple of factors to consider. One is the value of the tokens increasing, right? So that's your balance is going up or down. Another is how much fees are you earning, how much you're getting paid. That's measured by the volume of the pool itself. And then lastly, there's like Jeremy was saying, the concept of impermanent loss, because basically what's happening is if you're providing liquidity to the pool, people are trading against it. So you're taking the opposite trades of everyone else. So it's like chipping away at like your balances over time. But with the fee income plus a lot of times now there's like incentive rewards. So like you can stake it and earn more tokens of some other project that wants to like help incentivize liquidity. Plus now with the new changes in V3 coming up, there's more capital efficiency, could reduce the downsides, right? Increase the upside. So this becomes a good way for people to get involved economically and start like yield farming or start earning liquidity rewards. Also wanted to say that We just dropped a link to the chat for the Uniswap committee. So if you want to join the Uniswap committee chat, we can have future discussions around this. And again, like, don't worry about experience. Like, we're here to teach you a lot about Uniswap and how Uniswap works, and then getting involved in the actual governance and the debating and the voting. And I really want to stress like how important this is, because, for example, we had a conversation with some students from Benville yesterday, and one of the discussion topics was that, Uniswap's over in some other world, they're never going to like hire anyone from Italy. They're never going to be interested like in students in Italy. It's like, well, that's not true, because the world is decentralized now, and you can get involved in any project that you want through governance and through voting. Like, once there's an actual proposal being put through Uniswap, we're going to ping all of the universities that we have, and every university through Ben gets one vote. And so everyone votes on what what these, right now we're just talking, this is like hypotheticals, but once V3 is live, once there's new proposals for fee switches, we'll vote on those things, and your voice actually counts, and it actually can change this, multi-billion-dollar protocol. So it's very exciting to be a part of, and that catches the attention of the companies, whether or not Uniswap itself or maybe some other company in the space you want to work with or work on. And then Ken also brought up an interesting point about the grants. So if you are technical, or you are working on a project, and you and a group of students or your own club have an idea for how to improve Uniswap, you can write a proposal and get a grant for that as well. And we will help you through the application process. Just reach out to us and let us know what your idea is. Or maybe you don't have an idea, but you have talent and you have the interest. We can help you find an idea or find a team to like work on some project. There's a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, Ken is saying that it can be non-technical too, right? There's a lot of stuff. Like, our grant is non-technical. Our grant is to have these, the Ben grant is to have these discussions and have intercollegiate participation, getting more universities involved in governance. But there's tons of stuff, tons of ways that you can be involved. So don't ever feel like, oh, I'm not a coder, I can't be involved in crypto, I don't know. You can reach out to us in the chats. Brett is saying, can you give more examples of non-technical versus technical work? I think, Ken, maybe you can do that for based off some of the things that you've seen people apply for and get grants for to work on.
For sure. Yeah. So I just posted in the chat this RFP and challenges post that we have. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to do, right? Like, in terms of V3 usability, the conversations that we're having here, being able to express that and talk about it, I think it's a huge problem. And I think, breaking it down in an easy manner by reputable sources, I think is hugely important. And I think, if you just YouTube Uniswap, you're going to find so many scam videos. It's really hard to cut through the noise. There's also, being able to set standards, like I said before. If you're hosting a hackathon, that's another one. Treasury management is huge, right? I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have to have some sort of accreditation to be able to manage money. But the Uniswap Treasury has $9 billion. I think actually more than that. So, if you have a strategy for say managing $10 to $50 million, or we don't even have to do that high. I give you $1 million. I think, in general, you just want people who are motivated or can come up with a strategy to manage funds. That's huge. Documentation, onboarding, those are huge problems right now. Being able to manage that, inclusion and access. I think, D&I is just not a huge stressor right now in crypto. We like to talk about how inclusive we are, but fundamentally that's not the case, right? Yeah, I think there's so many things that can be done, and it's not limited to what I've said here. I think one thing that I've always sort of that stuck with me is my barber actually told me this story, and like he said, closed mouths don't get fed, and that's really stuck with me. So if you just have an idea, the worst thing that can happen is I send you an email that says like, sorry, this is out of scope, we can't be funding this now, but we can continue the conversation, just talk about what it is that you want to work on. Does this qualify for a grant? And the worst thing that can happen is I just say no. It's not like I'm gonna permanent ban you from ever applying for a grant again. Like this would be a lot of fun to sort of like talk through and sort of go back and forth on of whether or not something qualifies for a grant. Because I would say like most times you probably shoot yourself in the foot by just thinking that it doesn't, rather than just filling out a form in 10 minutes.
Yeah. And also, by the way, if you guys haven't posted your university in the chat yet, please post what university you're from and what country. That helps us for attendance. And when we publish the recap afterwards, we know how many universities were represented and how many countries were represented.
Awesome. Yeah. So
Okay.
to kind of briefly cover, sorry about that, Eric. You're going to say something?
No. Well, you can do the tutorial, and then we have other questions we can get to, and then you can also ask the questions in voice as well. We'll have like voice sessions as well.
Great. Yeah. I just want to cover the pairs and how to kind of participate as an LP. I think that's something, especially those who have never provided liquidity to Uniswap. I think this is kind of important information as we move into V3, which is exciting in itself, right? So kind of what Eric explained before, let's use the Uni and ETH pair as an example. So whenever you provide liquidity to a Uniswap pair, you need to, it's a 50-50, right? So it has to be of equivalent value, right? So let's say you want to provide 1 ETH, right? Which is about, let's round it to whole number. So it's $2,400. And then you have to have the equivalent value in Uni. So you have to also provide 2,400 in Uni, right? Because it's 50-50. So now you pay the gas fees, you start partaking and acting as a liquidity provider in the pool. So now you could earn trading fees. So whenever somebody swaps Uni to ETH or vice versa, you're incurring or accruing some of those fees, right? But now here's where the impermanent loss comes to play, right? So every time somebody swaps from ETH to Uni or Uni to ETH, it's kind of chipping away at the supply that you provided, right? So that's what it means by, and it's impermanent, because what happens is, let's say a huge amount of volume goes towards Uni, as well as a counteracting amount of volume comes towards ETH. You could go back to the initial amount that you provided, hence 1 ETH and whatever's the equivalent quantity of Uni to proportionate value of ETH, 2,400, right? So when you're at that baseline, you're neutral. It's not impermanent. You haven't lost anything. Hence impermanency, right? But now once there is a leniency or a higher volume towards either asset, that's where the impermanent loss comes to play, because technically you have lost some position in the other asset. Now, how do you counteract that? What are pairs that you could provide liquidity to that has that don't really experience impermanent loss? So we could look at stablecoin pairs. So let's look at, actually, I'm not a fan of Tether, so let's look at DAI. Is there a USDC DAI? There we go. So as you can see, DAI and US dollar coin are stable coins, right? So they will not experience impermanent loss. So $100 worth of US dollar coin will be $100 worth of DAI. So it's 100 DAI and 100 USDC. So every time somebody exchanges 1 DAI to 1 USDC or vice versa, you're just incurring or accruing trading fees. And you're not really losing or experiencing any impermanent loss, since it's pegged to $1, right? So this is a good way, in a sense, to, if it's like a residual strategy that you're, that you would like to experiment with, this is something that you could kind of check out. So those are the two kinds of pairs that we see in Uniswap primarily. One is as a volatile pair that's usually tied to another volatile asset, Uni to ETH, or a lot of pairs are the individual asset, which is ETH to a stable coin, and then we also have stablecoin to stablecoin. So those are the 3 kind of tiers that we see, all of which experience fluctuations in liquidity and volume and so on and so forth. So that's just a brief high-level intro to that for those who aren't familiar with LPing. And then, like Eric said, there are other initiatives that you could partake in. So you could stake your LP tokens now to a protocol and start liquidity mining. Liquidity mining is the accrual process or the reward process of supplying your liquidity, your LP token in return for that protocol's native token, right? A great example is like Ampleforth. You supply liquidity to the Ample ETH pair, you take that LP token and you stake it to their program, which is the Geyser. And in return, right, to kind of mitigate any impermanent loss, you earn ample rewards in return, right? So there are different incentive initiatives that are executed, all different and vary by protocol to protocol. So that's just another high level example of what that is. I'll pause there briefly. Any questions? I see a lot of conversation going on in the chat. Let me see if I could catch up with any of the questions. Ishan, can you set limits as to what price you'll provide liquidity for? Excuse me, not yet. At least, for instance, Matcha, at least not on Uniswap, but there are other decentralized exchanges that do offer limit orders. I mentioned Matcha. Matcha is the 0x decentralized exchange aggregator, and you could set a limit order in which you submit that order to whatever price. Say you want ETH at, I don't know, 2,300, right? You set the limit order, and it acts just like as if you're submitting an order, limit order on a centralized exchange. It awaits for somebody to snag that order from you, and you get your ETH for whatever the quantity it may be, right? Let's see. Or will it always be any price? Not sure what you mean by that, Ishan. If you kind of speak on that a bit more. Yeah, Ken, I see you're getting a lot of questions about the Unigrant program. I mean, please feel free to elaborate a little bit more. I think there's a lot of interest in how students could start participating in the Unigrants, Unigrant waves moving forward. So please, you have the floor if you want to touch on that a bit more.
No, man. I don't want to take a shot. I think you're doing an amazing job at talking about liquidity. I think you're doing an amazing job. I don't want to, definitely don't want to steal the stage here. I'll just keep talking in the chat and helping, just in case.
Yeah, guys, please join the Telegram chat so that once this is over, you guys can keep asking your questions, or if you actually want to apply for a Uniswap grant, we can help you do that. You can make your interest known in there. Yeah, I think Ishan, maybe you want to just ask your question in voice. That way, Jeremy can answer that.
Yeah, definitely. So I recently read that Sushi Swap was going to be, you could work on it on the Ethereum chain, or also on Avalanche, which is owned by Avalabs. And because of that, you can essentially do it on a with much fewer fees, because Avalanche is more efficient. And I was wondering, can we talk a bit about that and whether that's in Uniswap's future?
I have my own take on that. I don't. Eventually, right? Ideally, we will see interoperability from chain to chain, and I think the whole intention of that is to diminish fees, right? Decrease fees significantly, right? And as you just mentioned, exchanges done or trades done on Avalanche or any L2 or any side chain are significantly less than main chain Ethereum. So that's a huge plus, and we're seeing a huge momentum shift towards those kind of alternatives. And hopefully by July, once the hard fork happens, the Ethereum hard fork happens, we'll start seeing more of a even keel playing field, right? But back to your question, I see interoperability play a huge part, and I would not be surprised moving forward if Uniswap starts kind of tinkering with that concept. I know that they're planning on implementing an L2, if I'm not mistaken. I believe is Optimism I might be mistaken. Somebody, if I'm wrong, please correct me.
That's correct. Optimism.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So now that they're using L2, we're going to see a whole bunch of pairs get listed on the L2 layer, a lot more liquidity, significantly more volume, hopefully. And I mean, you know, it's an experiment, so we're going to see how that plays out. But there's a lot of community backing behind that initiative, and yeah, I really hope that they answered your question. I kind of ranted a little bit, but yeah, I hope that provides some sort of clarity in some way, shape, or form.
Is it okay if I ask a question away from liquidity, but about a different Uniswap proposal?
Please do.
Yeah. So, kind of one problem I think that exists in Uniswap now, at least like for regulatory reasons, is like no KYC or like protect your customer or anything like that. You know, y'all obviously have like a lot of people just getting like wrecked by gas fees, trying to buy like $100 of like whatever alt they want, and just paying like half of it in fees, right? So do you, what kind is, I'm not like very familiar with like the proposed, if there are any proposals right now on Uniswap regarding KYC or protect your customer, but how valuable do you think it would be for like Uniswap to proactively be trying to, you know, address that situation?
I think I'll touch on that. And so this is an interesting point, right? Because you have in crypto sort of the like, you know, this is a decentralized exchange, right? And the idea is that anyone can provide liquidity. And so when you think about KYC and talk about regulations there, you're sort of like, the idea is that a DEX is permissionless and anyone can sort of get on. Is Uniswap getting ahead of themselves and you know, trying to KYC people? And the answer is no, because it's just like, essentially Uniswap is just smart contracts and sort of an interface to be able to interact with the smart contracts. So doing more than that means that you're doing something else. Like what would you need to do in order to KYC someone? Why would you need to KYC someone if all you're doing is hosting smart contracts? I think that is a question that needs to be answered before we talk about why Uniswap should or should not be doing KYC in the future. And maybe, you know, I think there is a case to be made of a KYC version of Uniswap, but I think that's a conversation for another day, or vastly different conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Awesome. And I think, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Ken, do you mind if I ask you a question quick?
Of course.
Yeah, with regards to the Uniswap grants program, is there a way to view the history of funded projects? Is there a transparent, are we able to see that or no?
Yeah, of course. I have a public Notion set up. So like everything that I do is public. I'll post it in the chat. But the idea here is that this is a community treasury. Everything that like is funded or bestowed upon here is like, the community doesn't trust it in me to make the right decisions, right? And I think in the future, if someone believes that I'm not doing the right thing, or if I'm, you know, not performing up to snuff, I think, you know, absolutely it should be called out. And you know, like in my mind, it's not just one grants program, it's like many grant programs should exist. So one of the things that I love about this, like Ben specifically, is that, you know, I want there to be more things pop up. I want people to raise their hand and like tell me, you know, this sucks, I could do it better. I want them to go through governance and actually submit a proposal for a better grants program. I'd be more than happy to vote on that. And I think there's so many possibilities to go on. Like my budget is only $1.5 million. It's $1.5 million total. I think we bumped that up second quarter. So, you know, I don't have a huge amount of money to sort of dole out. So I think the next iteration of this, take the shared learnings from everything that, you know, I've built here. Now I'm happy to also like give away my processes, right? It's just Airtable. Like nothing here is that intense, just because I think there's so much to be done. And learning from my best practices, telling me that I'm wrong. You know, these are all ways to compound the amount of impact that we can all make in the ecosystem together.
Got it. And do you have a favorite project that you funded from Q1 or something that's coming up in Q2 to the ground?
It's a loaded question.
Besides Ben's,
Besides
right?
Besides Ben.
Yeah,
Besides
besides
Ben,
Ben.
yes. I know there's bias here, yes.
No, but the thing is though, like Ben is one of my favorite grants, right? So Ben, Shreyas, Chris Martz, like what I really wanted to do here with the wave 1 and wave 2, Boris as well, is to be able to show that I'm not the best allocator of resources, right? I can only do so much. And I think other people can allocate resources more specifically and better than I can. So Ben, working so closely with universities, with students, is such a better allocator of resources than I am, right? I'm not on the ground talking to you all the time. And Shreyas for Treasury Management Committee, he's going to submit an analyst report through governance and say, this is how we should be managing our funds. Give me $10 to $50 million. I'm definitely going to be voting on that. And I think, that all like lays the tracks for the next person to see that and say, actually, that's way too aggressive. We need to be more conservative with our funding, especially entering the bear market. Knock on wood, we don't enter it too soon. But inevitably we're going to. So what does that Treasury Management Committee look like? Who is going to be part of that committee? I think that's going to be really cool. Chris is doing documentation, onboarding. He's going to give out funds on his own to sort of work with different creatives on how they should be creating onboarding documentation. Boris is running something called the Stable, which I think is a really cool name for unicorns. Who unicorns are essentially just I think what he's labeling them as unicorns are, but just people within discourse, within Discord, just Uniswap community members who are just going above and beyond to help others, whether it's creating spam bots or doing so much more to help everyone else around them. So he has his own grant budget. All of these things are just ways to allocate resources better than one small group of people can do. And I think these niches, these highly specific sort of subcommittees, as I call them, are going to be so much more effective. So I think all of those are my favorite.
Cool, thank you. And just one more question, Ken, if you don't mind. I see we have a few minutes remaining, but how do you prevent, when you fund someone, how do you prevent them from running away with the uni that you fund them with?
Yeah, so grants are very milestone based. They're deliverable based. And so when we do grants, we do 50% upfront and 50% upon deliverable or upon milestone. So there's different ways of looking at it, right? I think for each grantee, it's going to be different. So some you're going to get 50% upfront, and then you're going to get 50% upon completion. Some you're going to break that down to 50% upfront and then 25% at each different milestone. We can't prevent people from just taking the money and like completely running away, but like the most you'll get is 50% of it. And we sort of just trust people to not be bad because your community reputation is on the line. We try our best to sort of filter for people who we do trust. But people get scammed. I've gotten scammed before. It'll happen again, probably. Hopefully it doesn't, but probability is not great.
Would it be possible to add a functionality? Maybe you have to stake a certain amount of uni, and then beyond, once you reach a certain milestone or something, then you get your staked uni back. Is that something you guys have considered?
So yeah, we consider something like that. The problem here is that some teams really just don't have any runway, right? Some people are literally just, they want to do this because they're committing their entire sort of free time on this project. So if this is their full-time job, is working on the grant, it's hard for them to sort of just stake it. I mean, technically they can open up a CDP, but it's hard. Everyone has sort of different needs, and we can't sort of knock them just because they need the funding.
Got it. All right. Thank you very much.
Of course. Great questions.
Yeah, so in respect to everyone's time, and thank you, Ken. That was awesome. And thank you, John and Josh, for your questions and your comments. That was great. In respect to everyone's time, we have about 4 minutes left. So with those 4 minutes, I just want to quickly touch on the governance forums that are open in Uniswap, and then after that, just introduce a few initiatives that we have going on here at Ben. Myself and Eric and Antonio will kind of speak on that in the remaining 3 to 2 minutes. So to kind of quickly go over what's going on here in the forum, there are multiple servers or channels, whichever label you want to tie to them, called temperature check, consensus check, proposal discussion, delegation pitch, governance meta, or meta delegation or meta governance, site feedback, and uncategorized. So uncategorized is pretty much a free form discussion. They don't really have a category per se, and it's just ongoing conversation on potential upgrades or iterations that could occur on the Uniswap platform or exchange, excuse me. Temperature check, they just resurface certain changes that are certain proposals that kind of died down and the discussion hasn't been ongoing. So they just bring it up again and say, hey, what's the temperature? Well, what's the sentiment on this proposal? Yay, nay, they carry on the conversation, and if it dies, then they carry on to the next proposal, right? The consensus check, as stated here, it just establishes the formal discussion around a potential proposal. They believe, if the community believe it's a feasible and viable suggestion or proposal, they'll dive into the discussion a bit more in a granular fashion, and eventually launch it for vote, right? Or push it to vote, and they let the community decide. Proposal discussion, anybody can really submit or anything on this proposal discussion forum. So let me open it up, and then there's a bunch of different discussions. So add SNX ETH pool to list of pools eligible for uni rewards, right? And then if I hop in there, we'll start seeing some of the conversation that's being carried on in there. Here's Ken with the Uniswap grants program, 0.1 version, and you can read. And what's neat about all these proposals is they're very thorough and detailed, right? So let's look at the grants. It shows the first iteration, the update, and then what this proposal entails, right? So it's really neat. And then what I personally like, I mean, this may be me nerding out a bit, but I like reading the discussions that happen, because there's a lot of interesting perspectives and a lot of interesting takes that go on, and not a lot of people will take the time to read on it. So I highly recommend, whether it's a bedside read or if you're taking a coffee break, just hop on the Uniswap forums and just see what's going on, because there's a lot of really cool, interesting stuff that are being spoken about or talked about. So that's just, again, a high level review on what's going on the forum. And with that, I'll leave it open for about a minute to see if anybody has any questions, any remarks on what was just discussed. Ken or Christian or Eric or anybody really that wants to add anything, please feel free to do so. And then we'll transition into what's going on with Ben.
There's one thing that I want to add. One thing I've been thinking a lot about recently is the idea of like a governance champion or champions. I think conversations like this, facilitated conversations, are super, super helpful. But I can't help but imagine like what the possibilities would be if we did this on a larger scale. Like if we could have someone sort of, or some team, maybe it's you all, maybe it's Ben, but just facilitating like larger calls on some of the like the forum conversations. Like there's one that I saw recently that was really cool, which is the comp vote ported over to Uni. I would love to see that happening. I think it just requires someone to sort of like nudge in the right direction, and we'll that brings us 80% of the way there. So if anyone's interested, raise your hand. I would love to provide a grant for that as well. So just let me know. Yeah, let's do it, man.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, what's really cool is that everything's an experiment. So everything's evolving, even from meeting to meeting. Like I was taking notes about things that we could do better for next time, for even meetings like this. And shout out to Antonio for also like helping the Ben Turkey students with explaining some of the more difficult concepts in the Ben Turkey chat, and then posting some stuff in Turkish as well there. So a lot of international barriers being broken down through this as well. Yeah, everything's experimental. And Caleb, did you want to say something, or you raising your hand, just express your interest? Okay, well, we can talk more in the Telegram chat and get you more involved. Whatever ways people want to get more involved, you want to get involved with the Uniswap Delegate Committee. Jeremy, did you have other initiatives specifically you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. So tomorrow, we're actually really excited. This is a long time coming with this initiative, as Ben will be officially launching the Ben Crypto Fund. Excuse me, let me get my cat out the way. we're
Crypto Kitty.
It's a crypto kitty, yeah, exactly. So we're launching the Ben Crypto Fund, and what's really neat about this initiative is it's completely student ran. So Ben has allocated $5,000 to a student ran fund that will be hosted on token sets. So actually, I'll pull it up now to kind of give a visual. So we'll be using the asset management hub on token sets. So we have fund analysts that have submitted applications to govern or run the fund. And to kind of add to that, the application is on a rolling basis. So Eric or Antonio will be dropping the application in the chat in just a moment for anybody that's interested. And we really want to stimulate more involvement and more engagement with this crypto fund, because this ties in nicely with our governance process, right? So moving forward, we want to kind of have a similar forum that we saw with Uniswap, right? So we want to see proposals submitted on how we could scale the fund. How can we create another fund that has maybe more DeFi degen characteristics, right? Or yield farming or and liquidity mining characteristics, and so on and so forth, right? We really want to, there's really no experiment that we could do that's limited. We want to provoke a conversation, and we really want to challenge our members to kind of think outside the box, right? So to kind of go back into the token sets, our fund managers, we have 4 at the moment, and hopefully more in the foreseeable future. And tomorrow around 11:30 to 2 o'clock, we'll be having a meeting that will discuss the methodology behind the fund, how the fund will be comprised, and by that I mean the token selection criteria that our fund analysts have created, and then lastly we'll be launching the crypto fund. So whoever wants to attend and just kind of sit in and see what the discussion is about, and see how our fund analysts approach it, that'll be neat. Please feel free to do so. Antonio or Eric will drop the invitation, or just speak up if you're interested in attending. So to kind of give you a quick overview, and then I'll yield the time. Our analysts will just select certain assets that will comprise or consist of the fund. So I'll just type in some random tokens. So disclosure, I'm not shilling anything, right?
Jeremy, I thought we agreed that the fund was going to be 100% Dogecoin from now on, right?
Yeah.
I think all four crypto analysts of our student analysts came to the same conclusion: 100% Dogecoin.
Yeah, they have actually. So we're gonna try to
it's
find
very
we're gonna try to find a yield
very
farming.
Serious. It is very serious, and it's very interesting, because even at the last time there were a lot of good discussions. So you can join us for those discussions. It's all about helping students stand out for applications, to go work at real crypto funds, and we want to bring on real hedge funds in the space as mentors, as advisors and partners on the fund, so that you can get the experience of working at a real crypto fund as a student for Ben, which you can then leverage into getting a position at a crypto fund. That's the point of the Ben Crypto Fund. So we're really excited for that initiative. And some people have to go now, so you can feel free to sign off. We'll just keep talking until we're done. But we'll post a link real quick to the chat as well. So this chat right here is the Ben International chat. So if you post it in there, if you join that chat, we'll post a link to the event tomorrow where you can join the event. And then also I wanted to say that we also have another initiative coming up that's more aligned with, so it's kind of what Jeremy was saying with the governance. We have a big initiative around Ben Coin and Ben Learn. So the idea behind Ben Learn is a governance platform or a video platform where students can go and watch videos to learn about different blockchain applications and earn the rewards in the form of Ben Coin. So Ben Coin is a rewards token that Ben gives out to students that attend events, volunteer, complete activities, and complete lessons, and can be redeemed for conference tickets and flights. So there hasn't been much traveling happening this year because of the pandemic, but normally, there is a lot of travel. And Ben, a big thing that Ben does is help students fly to conferences, get conference tickets, get Airbnbs, like we get Airbnbs for students to stay at. And for the international students, we get them their visas as well. So we help apply for visas, pay for visas, fly students out. And students, when we bring them to the conference, then they get to network, they get to find jobs, they get to find co-founders if they have their own ideas. So the way we pick those students is the students that show up to the most events, the students that complete the most activities, do the most lessons, are the most involved and the most engaged. And so, yeah, there's a question about the way that it works. So if you go to blockchainedu.org, you can create an account on the Ben website. And then at blockchainedu.org/learn is where all the videos are. But you also have profiles. So like once you log in, you'll see like your Ben profile, and then you'll be able to like see the events you've attended, the lessons you've completed, the tasks you've done. And we will have the attendance list for the people here so that everyone that attended here will be marked on your profile. You'll see that you attended here, and that'll be cool because you can, the more events of these that you attend, the more like you can earn, which will then make you like get picked for a flight or for an Airbnb at a conference. So you will get to meet up in person, you'll get to be there at the conference, and because it's a blockchain conference, it's good for your career because you can meet potential employers at the conference and we'll help out with that. So that's exciting. It's exciting. That's live now. You can go and sign up and create an account now. And everyone that attended this particular event will be giving out a badge. So you'll see that you attended this Uniswap call on your Ben profile. You post a link. Yeah, we'll post a link to the website right now. So you can go to the website, you can create a Ben account. And if you run into any issues, please post it in the chat. Let us know, like any technical issues. Yeah, Ben POAPs. When are Ben POAPs? We actually had POAPs in the past. POAP, we met the guys at ETH Boston, and the POAPs are really, really cool. And then we actually did POAPs for the MIT Bitcoin Expo. There were some POAPs that students can earn. For people that don't know what POAPs are proof of attendance protocol. So they're NFT badges you can get for attending events. And so perfectly aligned with what we're doing here. So we'd love to give out POAPs to students that attend, these Uniswap calls, the crypto fund calls, the all of our events that we have, like the Ben Africa calls, lots of fun stuff that we can do. So if you're interested in helping out from like a development standpoint, message us and let us know. You can join the Ben Tech Committee, which works on all of these projects.
Yeah, and whoever's really interested to join the Ben Tech Committee, kind of like what Eric just touched on, we're starting a new initiative that's trying to build out Ben Coin utility, right? And ideally, we're kind of migrating towards a more robust governance structure. So again, if there's any developers here that are interested, or you have any developer friends within your club or organization, you're more than welcome to join the discussion. We're actually going to schedule a call with the Ben Tech Committee sometime within the week or within the upcoming week, so we can carry on this conversation. But yeah, anybody is more than welcome to join.
Yeah, we're also actually hiring a paid developer intern for working on Ben Learn and doing the integrations, helping us with the integrations for the website and kind of smoothing out like the Ben profile, the Ben Learn page, where the students can see the videos for education and like learn the education. And we're also hiring for a social media intern as well to help us with tweets and market. So if that's stuff that you're interested in, we can share a link. And Tony, could you share a link to the applications for that as well? Lots of stuff, lots of ways to get involved. And it's all, it's all oriented towards students and helping students to stand out, for jobs and for co-founders, starting companies, joining companies. It's all about getting students to get matched with jobs, which also our other biggest initiative, the Ben Career Center, that Antonio's been working really hard on that. You can schedule office hours. If you don't know what you want to do after you graduate, or you're completely lost, you can schedule office hours with us, with some of our Ben career counselors, with Ben alumni, with Ben mentors and advisors, and just talk to them about how can I get involved? How can I stand out in this space? What can I do in this space? Here are my skills. We're going to be growing out the Career Center a lot to help students get more involved and make sure that everyone's jobs are secure for summer internships, for after graduation. So this is all for your benefit. Like, we were all students, we were all like club leaders when we were students, and now Ben is really just students helping students. Are there applications for the tech intern? Yeah, there are applications for the tech intern. Antonio can share the link to that, and then you can go and apply through there. There's like a Google form you can like fill out. But if tech intern is like, you're going to be working on the development of the site. If you just want to join the tech committee and just contribute your ideas and discussions, like, hey, let's do decentralized certificates, let's do POAPs, let's do digital identities for students to build up digital resumes, for certificates to all the students. If you just want to contribute to ideas, you can join the tech committee. Like, anyone can join the tech committee. That's just like all volunteers. But if you want like actual, like, I'm going to be building this and helping Ben build this out, so getting paid for that, that's an application. You can apply for that.
Yeah, so we are now about 12 minutes over time. So I'll kind of start wrapping things up. I know everybody wants to kind of go and enjoy their Saturday and not nerd out the whole day. So yeah, with that being said, hey, we have all the links here in the chat. Quickly before I close out, or we close out the call, hop on the Telegram chats and kind of join the conversation. We want everybody to start engaging and be more involved in what's going on. With that being said, I kind of just want to get a good gauge, a temperature check, if you will, on how you guys thought this conversation went. And I'll be sending out within the week an invitation for the next call, which will be at the end of the month. And I kind of recommend everybody looking into the white paper and into the press release for V3, or anything really. Just dive into Uniswap, and if you see anything cool in the forum, or you see a cool pair that you're interested in, just bring it up in the chat, and then we'll talk about it in our next call. We just want let's just get a conversation going. So with that being said, we'll keep the call running for another 4 to 5 minutes if anybody wants to keep talking here in the chat, and we'll begin to close it out.
My name is Jack. I'm from US. Just for a little introduction. So Antonio reached out to me for this meeting like last night. So I still haven't been able to get that much acclimated with like Uniswap, V3, and like all that stuff. But I'll be honest, like just from this meeting alone, my expectations are like pretty like broken. Like, I wasn't like, no offense to anyone here, right? Like, you guys are doing great work, like I can tell. But my expectations going in were not that high. Just given like, how like sort of like blockchain like products can kind of work, shout out to Ripple and Tron. But I think what you guys are doing is like really good. And I'm really excited to get involved more and correspond with y'all. So thank you for the opportunity.
No, for sure. And Jack, I'm happy we exceeded expectations. So with that being said, hey, you're more than welcome to hop on all the chats. Hopefully we keep exceeding your expectations and we kind of rule you into becoming a believer, if you will. But yeah, everybody's welcome. We really want, again, we just want more of an engaging community. We want everybody to kind of understand what's going on, because this space kind of develops on a years, on a day-to-day basis. So yesterday feels like it happened like 10 years ago, or 2 years ago, So yeah, please feel free to chime in whenever you want. And even if you have, a different opinion as from everyone else, love it. Love to have that kind of discussion going on. So thanks for chiming in, and cool. Love to have you here.
Yeah, no problem. No worries on the aggressive opinion sharing. You'll get plenty of that from me.
Looking forward to it.
Right, everyone, I just posted the current job openings. There is a link there that you can follow on Google Docs, and feel free to apply for any of those positions. They are listed there for Ben USA and Ben International. Again, we are looking for a social media manager. If you're really good at using Twitter and you're familiar with the crypto sphere on Twitter, that'll be amazing. So feel free to apply there. We're also looking for an event coordinator, alumni relations. So yeah, just feel free to follow the Google form at the end of the application, and we'll review everyone and have interviews throughout the week.
Awesome. With that said, Antonio, I think we could cut the recording, and we'll kind of keep this call open.